Hey, I've got a long lead into the first question about uh, criminal activity that goes on within prisons. I'm not going to repeat that, but I understand for you, Mr. Wetzel, I understand that criminals will often reoffend, and why is the Bureau of Prisons unable to get a hold of that problem?
Yes, it is finally happening. Congress is passing a new stimulus bill very soon. Joe Manchin is now meeting with Republican lawmakers to gain their support on President Biden's spending bill. Now, many people will be receiving an $800 stimulus check very soon, so you want to continue watching this video to never miss out on the very important stimulus check information, and we have a ton of good news to cover. So the majority of people in Colorado are eligible to receive $400 to $800 stimulus checks from the state government due to the Taxpayer Bill of Rights passed in 1992. Most full-time residents have already taken in the necessary steps to get their check mailed to them this summer, filing their 2021 state income tax return. Any full-time resident who hasn't been filed can still claim and ensure they get a check by filling out a submitting form by May 31st. However, a lot of residents, including many veterans and seniors, do not regularly file state income tax returns, and they have questions regarding their eligibility. Folks, the answer is yes. You are still eligible to receive the $400 check for single filers and $800 for joint filers if you are a full-time resident. According to Colorado Governor Jared Polis, there are additional benefits to filing state and federal income tax returns, even if the taxpayer owes little to nothing. He said filing a return ensures that any excess withholding tax is refunded, and they may also be eligible for valuable refundable state and federal credits, like the Earned Income Credit and the Child Tax Credit. This is the same requirement for people in Colorado who claim and receive payments for the 6-tier flat sales tax refund mechanism that would normally refund the money at filing time next year. All eyes are on Joe Manchin as he moves forward with negotiations on President Biden's Build Back Better bill. Reporters have asked Senator Manchin and GOP senators about the claim in a new book that Manchin said he will be willing to switch to the Republican Party if Senate Republican John Thune were the Senate GOP leader instead of Mitch McConnell. Manchin told reporters today that Republican colleagues frequently ask him about switching parties and that he never seriously considered leaving the party. The banter between Manchin and his Republican colleagues is reinforcing doubts that he will not sign on any point this year to a partisan reconciliation package to enact major elements of Biden's domestic agenda, with 50 Democrat votes and no GOP votes. Democrats also have taken note that Manchin's opposition to various Democratic initiatives appears to be playing well back home. According to a report, Manchin's job approval rating in West Virginia has jumped by 17 points compared to a year ago. 57% of West Virginians now approve of Manchin's job performance, compared to only 40% after the first 3 months of 2021. According to Democrats' concerns, Manchin has convened a bipartisan group of senators in an attempt to pass a package of energy proposals that would also address climate change with 60 votes under regular order. It's a development for Democratic senators who hope a climate and renewable energy package will be a core piece of the budget reconciliation package. Now, the climate and energy piece of the
Excuse me. Thank you, Senator. There's a lot of talk around staffing, and the reality is that if you have a large group of incarcerated people and they're not overseen, you have a few number of staff, people are going to default to the lowest common denominator. So when you don't have enough staff to oversee and do basic security functions, these things go by the wayside, and then we get to a place where people are arming themselves to feel safe when they're stealing to provide things for themselves. So again, it comes down, we talk a lot about correctional staffing, and I appreciate you mentioning wellness because, our staff, we need to take care of our staff. Over COVID in particular, 2 years of COVID when most of America was on Zoom, these guys are Zooming around prisons because we don't have enough staff, and security falls off first, and it happens quickly, and it's hard to get back. And then you add a lack of oversight from a management standpoint. Management is short. You got a big department that's spread out all over the country, so you don't have internal controls, and then you all don't have the controls here to even compel getting that information. So I think it's a construct, but when you go back, its root cause is staffing.
Mr. Fawzi, we just heard that staffing is a problem. The Bureau's budget has also increased by nearly $1 billion in the past 5 years, with much of it supposed to be for staffing. Do we know where the money has gone? If yes, where? If no, then what efforts have been taken to track Bureau of Budget expenditures, and why? What kind of cooperation has the Bureau of Prisons provided?
Thank you, Senator Grassley, for the chance to answer that question. We're asking the same question as where does the money go? And I think if you've seen the posture of our council as a whole, we're supporters of additional funding, and we see the necessity of it. But I think more importantly attached to that must be oversight. This body and your counterparts must watch where every dollar goes. And I think the fluidity of the Bureau's budget and their ability to move them between line items can tend to misuse those funds in the wrong places. And I think our staffing crisis might improve if there was a little bit oversight on the funding that we do get.
Ms. Cardenas, I wanted to ask you, because you went through a program at Camp Bryan, Texas. How effective were those programs, and how much did you benefit from it, and in what way would you say they could be improved?
I went to Blaine College while I was incarcerated and took the accounting certificate program. That one helped me a lot because I was going to school for accounting prior to incarceration, so it just helped me stay educated while I was in there. I mainly took classes that helped me with finding job placement once I released. I think there should be more programs like that, because right now you have a lot of programs that really don't help you with rehabilitation and coming home. And I think they also probably need to focus on like counseling and things like that. But I know when I was in school, they didn't allow for you to go for like a bachelor's or a master's. And I think that would be beneficial to people incarcerated, because if it takes 4 years to learn a new trade or learn something in a new field to be able to go out and get a job, I mean, what better would that do for the people incarcerated, to not rehabilitate again?
Senator Booker, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, he is far down the dais, but he's very near in our hearts.
Legislation package is competing with what Manchin is trying to negotiate with a group of Republicans. Senate Democrat Mark Kelly, who attended the first meeting hosted by Manchin on energy and climate proposals, told reporters that there is a lot of overlap with what's been discussed for inclusion in the reconciliation package.
Administrator Guzman, I will begin by recognizing myself for 5 minutes. Ms. Guzman, access to capital, as you know, is critical to small businesses, and the SBA loan programs have had a banner year. How will you continue this success and also expand to employee-owned businesses and cooperatives as mandated by statute?
Our capital access team is positioning, and our whole agency is positioning to make sure that we can serve not only those new 5.4 million entrepreneurs, but all of our firms across the country. And we know that access to capital remains a really important issue for so many of them to overcome. In particular, around the Main Street Act, we're really committed to making sure that all businesses have pathways to accessing capital, including those that are employee-owned and those ESOPs. And so we have worked with the advocates in the industry to see if we can see what we can do to assess and adapt our programs to fit their needs. And we have made some important changes, and we'll continue to assess those programs as we move forward and as we see more loan volume coming through, so that we can work with ESOPs and worker cooperatives. We know that as small businesses exit, employee ownership is a good pathway in many cases to transition and exit their firm successfully, and we'd like to make sure that capital is available.
So how is SBA using new technology, streamlined loan processes,